Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the online conference on digital economy in the Republic of Tajikistan. My name is Shaukat Ali Khan, and it's my honor and privilege to moderate today's online conference. This conference is hosted by the University of Central Asia in collaboration with the World Bank, European Union, and the StrategEast in cooperation with the Ministry of Industry and New Technologies of the Republic of Tajikistan. In this conference today, experts will talk about the importance of digital economy in the development of the country and also present their research findings related to Republic of Tajikistan. This conference will highlight the opportunities available in digital economy, which is growing fast, especially in developing countries. The core of the digital economy is the digital sector producing foundational digital goods and services. Digital economy has brought many new services which were inconceivable before, such as online home deliveries, and the best example is the rise of digital platforms such as Amazon, Uber, and Airbnb. These companies connect market participants together in a virtual world. Without any further delays, it gives me a great pleasure to invite Farhad Bilolzoda, Deputy Minister of Industry and New Technologies, Republic of Tajikistan, for his opening remarks.
Спасибо, Шаукат Алихан.
Thank you, Mr. Shaukat Ali Khan. It is a great pleasure to organize yet another event together with you, which is aimed at the issues of digitalization and the introduction of new technologies. It is a great honor for me to participate on behalf of the ministry in this event. And as the authorized representatives of the Minister of Industry and New Technologies, I would like to read his statement to you. Dear Professor Sohail Makwi, Dean of the University of Central Asia, Mr. Jan Peter Walters, the country manager of the World Bank Office in the Republic of Tajikistan, Mr. Stefano, Elero, head of cooperation, European Union Delegation to the Republic of Tajikistan, dear friends. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this event, and I would like to welcome and greet all the participants of today's conference on the topic digital economy in the Republic of Tajikistan. As you know, on the agenda of our today's conference, we managed to get together international and national experts that will tell us about the importance of digital economy for the development of the country and will present the results and the findings of their studies as they relate to the Republic of Tajikistan. Also, at this conference, we will cover the opportunities of the digital economy, which is growing fast, especially in developing countries. Dear participants, the core of the digital economy is the digital sector, the sector of information technologies that produces basic digital goods and services. Tajikistan is one of the countries which is at the stage of emergence of digital technologies. And in this direction, the Republic has already made a few steps through the activities of different sectors of the economy. Over the recent years, it has accomplished a number of achievements. And today we can note that different organizations in the country, including state and private organizations, are implementing in their activities new digital technologies. For instance, in the city of Dushanbe, we've introduced a system of electronic payment of passenger services under the city car service, with the help of which citizens of the country can pay for transportation services. The implementation of the system has made it possible not only to ensure transparent and reliable transportation services, but it has also been instrumental in ensuring stable provision of transport services to the city dwellers. Thanks to the digital technologies, we can see the successful development of the digitalization of the financial services sector. For instance, commercial banks are actively promoting the digitalization policy in their activities and offer new financial services and products. Thanks to the implementation of new technologies, the banking and the financial products are not only accessible, but also convenient, safe, and less costly. The implementation of new technologies has reduced operating costs of the banks, and in its turn, this reduces the cost of other banking services. Dear friends, I would like to note that as far as this question is concerned, the leader of the nation, President of the Republic of Tajikistan, Mr. Imam Ali Rahman, pays special attention to this. And this is why the leader of the nation back in 2019 instructed the government of the Republic of Tajikistan to develop and adopt the concept of digital economy of the Republic of Tajikistan. This concept envisages a gradual transition to the implementation of the digital transformation in the country. In accordance with the concept, the implementation is to take place over 3 stages up until 2040. It is noteworthy that all the stages of the implementation of the digital transformation within the framework of this concept will also take place within the framework of the Digital CASA project. The Ministry of Industry and New Technologies, within the framework of its authorities, also actively promotes the implementation of the above-mentioned concept. In the nearest future, using state-of-the-art experience of other countries, we're planning to establish an IT park in the city of Dushanbe with the relevant conditions that will promote the development of the information technology sector. In this regard, I would like to thank the University of Central Asia for their promotion in organizing a roundtable on this topic, which took place recently. Dear participants, today it is impossible to imagine the future development of the economy without gradual implementation of digital technologies, and this is a fact. And I hope that at this event today, the experts and the participants will share their experience that will be taken into account in the further development of the policy in this sphere. I would like to wish everyone good luck with the best wishes, Minister of Industry and New Technologies, Sherali Kabir. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Farhad, and thank you very much for the Ministry of Industries and New Technologies for all the support in the high-tech park initiatives and driving the digital agenda for the Republic of Tajikistan. Now I would like to invite Professor Dr. Syed Sohail Hussain Naqvi, Rector, University of Central Asia, for his welcome remarks.
Thank you, Shaukat. Thank you, Farhad, and our friends at the Ministry of Industries and New Technologies. It's a pleasure to work with you on this forum, and thank you to our partners from StrategEast, World Bank, and the EU for providing this platform. It's still mid-afternoon, and this is the third meeting that I'm having today on this issue. Started off with a forum with UNDP here in Bishkek. They have a mission in town, and it's all about digitalization and the provision of digital services to the community over here. And then I spoke to our people at the Narin Center for Entrepreneurship. We're trying to set up an entrepreneurship center in the city of Narin, where our campus here in Kyrgyzstan is located, and this will then be followed up with an entrepreneurship center that is also in the process of being established in Koro. It's a very important issue. Digital technology has opened many new frontiers, not the least of which that we can have these conferences irrespective of language, for example. The University of Central Asia both works by providing a bachelor's degree in computer science, as well as offering short courses at 15 different locations across 4 countries of Central Asia. So it's something that we are very, very committed to. It's also something that we have to practice to a very large degree, because we cannot be working with 17 different locations and in COVID times without being ourselves a leader in the implementation of digital technologies for our work, for educational purposes, for training work, for policy work at every level. And we do believe that this is a mechanism to cut across the difference between the haves and have-nots in the world. You have access to all of the trainings of the world that is possible, to all of the people who are connected via internet. We can fast-track development. It's an opportunity for developing countries, and as a university, we are absolutely committed to playing our role in this regard. And a special thank you again to all our partners who are making this event possible. Over to you, Shaukat.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Syed Suhail Hussain Naqvi. And now I would like to invite Jan Peter Wolters, Country Manager, World Bank Office in Republic of Tajikistan, for his opening remarks.
Thank you so much for the invitation and the ability to contribute to today's online conference on the digital economy that in the end could not have been organized at a more opportune moment in time. The impressive interest that we are witnessing here today is just a mere reflection of the anticipation and hope that digital transformation can do exactly that, namely to propel the country from its position of geographic periphery to the virtual center of emerging private sector-led activities. Today's discussion benefits from the increasing sincerity to find a way to respond effectively to the four overarching development challenges spanning legacy issues, demographics, climate change, and the COVID-19 pandemic. We are seeing encouraging signals of political willingness to translate the combination of increasing constraints and opportunities into sources of development and future prosperity. These efforts stand on two pillars of green recovery, largely related to the generation and transmission of clean electricity, and the creation of a partnership with the private sector. Regarding the latter, essentially being an increased focus on the business climate, starting with the ongoing efforts on tax reforms, and on preconditions to create high quality employment opportunities in the rural, remote regions of the country where about 70% of the population live and work. The two key sectors with the highest potential are: one, agriculture with storage, food processing, food safety, exports, possibly linked to tourism, and digital transformation. And here with a view to increasing the quality of public service delivery and crowding in private sector activities. To be able to leapfrog into a digital future, the focus would have to be on the institutional infrastructure environment that would help to improve tangibly the reliance and speed of and reduce considerably clients' costs for access to the internet. Global experiences in the current COVID-19 context have shown that affordable high-speed internet plays a critical role in preventing service interruptions that otherwise could contribute to welfare, revenue, and employment losses. Governments and businesses across the globe have negotiated virtually, have had online seminars, as we do today, while families have been benefiting from access to online education and e-health services. Tajikistan has already seen the benefits of an advanced ICT industry. During 2000-2015, it was one of the country's fastest growing sectors, contributing to socioeconomic development and indirectly to state budget revenues. Through transparent licensing procedures and low licensing fees, Tajikistan translated effectively its economy's relative weakness, low penetration rates, into an ability to attract reputable international operators. In early 2015, the telecom regulator reported ICT revenue growth rates of close to 15%. Since then, however, growth revenues in the ICT sector have started to fall gradually, with the number of new subscribers having begun to decelerate. This has affected the present situation. Today, Tajikistan is still constrained by limited access to and high prices for internet services, especially in rural areas. In 2019, far less than 1 in 100 households had broadband internet access, and that primarily in urban areas, and only 35% had mobile internet access. Similarly, only a handful of enterprises have broadband access and fewer than 1% offer digital services. This limited use of the internet has hindered economic development, including the transformation of the country's industrial sectors. The situation is aggravated by high prices for international connectivity, the high cost of public services, limited local connections, and weak content development. This explains the necessary focus on regulatory environment and the required level playing field in the market, currently still dominated by a state-owned telecom company, with a policy recommendation to separate the telecom regulator from the operator. By removing entry barriers and implementing a modern regulatory framework, Tajikistan could attract more private investment, thereby creating a virtuous cycle of newly established, profitable private enterprises that would co-finance the deployment of broadband infrastructure and improved network capacity, including last-mile investments. That is, to a large extent, the hope and vision of the potential that is inherent in the prospect of digital transformation and the significance of today's virtual seminar. With that, I wish all of us a most successful and impactful virtual seminar as demonstration effect of the potential inherent in a truly digital economy. Thank you.
Thank you, Jan Peter Wolters, for the excellent support and collaboration from the World Bank to organize this conference. Now I would like to invite Stefano Elero, Head of Cooperation, European Union Delegation to the Republic of Tajikistan, for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Chairman, and distinguished guests. It's a great honor to be here today because the European Union considered the digital sphere, we call it even digital era, a critical element of development for the Union itself and for the world. So this digitalization and the proper progress in the digital sphere is one of the key priorities of the new commission that has been enshrined 2 years ago, and that is pushing through in also in this current moment, and especially in view of the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. So for this reason, from the very beginning, we've been working closely with the World Bank in trying to push a discussion, this is an example, and then the progress on the digital agenda in Tajikistan, as we strongly believe it is a critical policy area for ensuring a bright future for the country. And we also believe that there is a big potential in Tajikistan, already shown by some bright example of let's say ice-breaking initiatives in the country, notwithstanding a general background in the sector which is not up to the necessary standard to promote all this potential. As I said, the COVID-19 pandemic has a major and negative impact on global economies, including Tajikistan and other Central Asian countries, and that has shed a light on the fact that the more innovative and digitized country have been better able to respond to the ensuing socioeconomic challenges. Therefore, we encourage Tajikistan to take up the necessary reforms to move forward, becoming a modern, sustainable digital economy, especially being with the specific characteristic of the country, which is a landlocked country. So digital connectivity may be a key element more to promote the development of the country. As said, and as already mentioned also by Peter, digital transformation is becoming an essential catalyst for the development of all sectors. And it requires proactive and cooperative engagement, but all stakeholders, all actors in the public sector. These, among many other activities, include ensuring better and more accessible public services, improve education and healthcare, private sector development. It's not just about infrastructure investment. It is very much more about reform that should be prioritized in order to push the digital agenda. However, there are also many practical opportunities for digital transformation, which include developing technology parks and a vibrant startup ecosystem. Some of it is already existing in Tajikistan. We are following with a lot of attention, and we are ready to support this in our next strategy that is starting now. The European Commission the European Union is budgeting on a 7-year cycle, and the new cycle starts with 2021 and will last until 2027. We haven't put digitalization as a specific sector of partnership, but we have stated in our strategy that is under approval that digitalization will be a cross-cutting issue underpinning all the priority sectors that we have identified in the strategy. And we are totally convinced to push whenever possible the digitalization aspect of any sector in our strategy. To better understand, in fact, the current situation with digitalization in Tajikistan and what needs to be done for furthering digital transformation, we have already hired a local consultancy, Civil Internet Policy Initiative, to perform a preliminary analysis on the subject. And the result of this work will be presented today. I'm very proud of it. And everybody is invited to provide input and comments on this work that is just a seminal work. This initial work, which is a limited scope, is already followed by an in-depth digital capabilities strategic analysis, which will support the development of enabling environment for a modern digital economy. For this purpose, we have hired the international consultancy Louvain Consulting, and some of the members of the team that are conducting this in-depth analysis are attending this meeting. This follow-up digital analysis will take a closer look into 5 essential areas of reform and investment to enable and further digital transformation. These areas are the telecommunication sector, of course, e-governance, digital education and skills, digital entrepreneurship and innovation, and digital resilience and crisis response. We're really looking forward to have a full cooperation on this analysis that can underpin the next phases of all our investment and partnership with the Republic of Tajikistan. As my last remark, I would say that crises such as COVID-19 and climate change have shown that reforms tailored towards long-term recovery and resilience are more important than ever. Digital transformation will play a crucial role in ensuring Tajikistan's socio-economic development and achievement of the SDGs. We stand ready to support Tajikistan in this endeavor. Thank you for your attention and the space given to me.
Thank you, Stefano. Thank you for your welcome remarks. Thank you, dignitaries, for your welcome and opening remarks and all the support from your institutions to organize this conference today. I can see that there are a lot of people waiting to get into the Zoom. Just for your information that in addition to Zoom, we are also live on the UCA page, EU page, and also World Bank and then StrategEast page. So you can easily watch this conference live on those platforms, and you are also able to ask your questions in the comments, because we are picking the questions and then we will forward them to the speakers. And all the participants who are watching us from Zoom, you can write your questions in the Q&A section, and then at the end we can post them to the relevant speakers. It gives me a great pleasure to invite our first speaker today, Mohammadi Ibadullah, Director of Public Fund Civil Internet Policy Institute. Mohammadi will talk about the state of digitalization in Tajikistan.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Shaukat. Dear participants, dear ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome each one of you at this platform, and I would like to thank the organizers of this event. It is an honor for me, and it is a privilege to say a few words at this event and discuss the relatively new stream for development of our country, digital economy. My presentation is based on the strategic analysis of the digital economy in Tajikistan that has already been referred to previously. The analysis was prepared with the financial support of the delegation of the European Union in Tajikistan, on the basis of the methodology and in partnership with the World Bank. If I may, I would like to show the presentation now.
Демонстрация экрана. Вот. Понятие цифровой экономики.
The concept of a digital economy, let me switch off the video for the quality to improve. So the notion of the digital, can you please switch on your video, because on Facebook people are actually watching the video, so it would be better if you could please switch on your video, is developing constantly due to digital technologies, whereas previously the concept of digital economy was restricted to e-commerce and ICT. Right now, it takes into account new opportunities of digital technologies and offer an impact on all the aspects of our livelihood. So this study takes advantage of the broad understanding of digital economy, including not only the digital sector and e-commerce as such, but also digitalization of governance, business, and industry, and also the society at large. The ecosystem of the digital economy, according to the suggestions of the World Bank, is a house of sorts that consists of non-digital or analog foundations, then digital foundations and the digital sector where the digitalization is based. The government, the business, and the population that in its turn will provide digital dividends. Speaking of potential benefits, for instance, for the citizens from the digital economy, the citizens can save hundreds of millions of dollars thanks to cheaper telecommunication services, lower cost of government transactions due to business trip expenses and the waiting time, as well as lower government fees and levies, retail, e-commerce, reduction of transportation costs, and cheaper retail prices. The enterprises outside of the ICT sector that are part of the digital economy can promote economic growth and employment thanks to the supplies of digital goods and services. It does not include all the facets, and we would like to discuss this in greater detail a bit later. This data has been kindly provided by the World Bank team. It was prepared by Michael Ninders, the consultant on the trends and the impact of digital technologies. Well, as far as the methodology is concerned of our study, it consisted of the following snapshots. So we had some snapshots of the development of the digital economy on the basis of the existing global indices and official statistics. Then we would analyze the current state of digitalization of the government and the business and the population as such. We would also conduct the analysis of the readiness and preparedness for the digital economy of non-sector, non-digital, and digital sectors. We would also analyze strengths and weaknesses, as well as problems and opportunities for the development of the digital economy.
And based on that, we were developing the recommendation for the strategic planning of our digital economy that I would like to share with you today. My report will have several sections. As I said before, there will be several chapters, parts of our analysis: the digital dividends, digitalization, digital infrastructure and platforms, cybersecurity, enabling environment, and potential economic benefits. After each part, we will allocate a couple minutes for Q&A sessions. And besides, the questions could be asked via emails. We will provide you more detailed answers. So now, if you allow me, I will start. In my presentation, based on each chapter, we will present information on the global indexes of Tajikistan, the results of our SWOT analysis itself, and recommendation. We will provide recommendation based on each part of my presentation, part of our analysis. So according to the WEF Global Economic Competitiveness Report for 2019, Tajikistan is on 104th place with the score 52.4 out of 100 possible scorers. So the main factor that hindering development of economic competitiveness, very weak innovation activity, low ICT penetration, small market size, undeveloped institutions, and all indicators for these groups of indicators in Tajikistan are lower than Eurasian average. Our gap analysis showed that in general, understanding of economic and social benefits from the social transformation for the economy exists. Many emphasize the great access to global and regional markets, cross-border trade, new business opportunities, productivity growth. It was also emphasized that there were better access among citizens for the public services, new opportunities for employment and communication and networking. In terms of SWOT analysis, if you will see the strengths or market of the digital dividends, first of all, is the policy and the legislation norms that were adopted starting from 2000, focused on using benefits of ICT nationwide, in particular strategic goals for the development. The legislations create necessary environment for using ICT and ICT-oriented facilities from the market needs, exit from the communication. Basically, availability of best practices, multi-purpose use of infrastructure, transport communications and telecommunication, energy independence that created by the local electric sector has many benefits, and at the same time, monopolization of ST market, the dependence of ST industry regulation on the market, licenses, the executive branch of the government, migration of transition domination on their institutional interest for the national ones of the digital economy. Sustainable political will of using digital dividends supported by the initiation of participation in the regional projects, CASA, digital CASA as well. So the infrastructure of the CASA 1000 could be also used for the needs of telecommunication companies by the region. And by joining the transnational project CASA 1000, Tajikistan moved forward and improved the advanced competitiveness and building capacity in the region. I think we will also be more actively use ICT for internal and external needs by cooperating with other countries of the region. At the same time, the provision of the availability of digital dividends allow us to use them and strengthen the competitive advantage by reducing risks and creating new opportunities. For example, the digital ICT reduce the distance between the consumer and manufacturer or provider and reducing the cost of the services, and also digital services providing industries and promoting industries. ICT use integration providing opportunity for 3L, so-called, everywhere, from every place, every time, and form the basis for the multi-purpose use of the infrastructure in many sectors of economy. But at the same time, for comprehensive use of the digital dividends, for the most important factor of success is existence of the dynamic compliance with the needs of the market, something like independent regulation of the industry, accountable institutions that focusing on monitoring and the real data, human capacity, providing support for the development of safety and security of the growing market, lack or formal existence of such additions build the digital dividends into the digital risks, creating vulnerabilities which could be used for the wrong purposes and basically increase the digital risks. And the weaknesses that provides here, covering some of them, for example, the dependence of other industries on the losing ICT markets, the detachment of ICT-oriented facilities from market needs, high tax rates for ICT services, weak ICT integration of interdisciplinary specialties, poor coordination of analog add-ons, regulation, skills, and accountable structures. There are certain threats that we observed during recent time in our local market of ICT, which substantially decrease the accessibility of the digital dividends, and of course, something like monopolization of the ICT market, the dependence of the ICT industry regulator on the market licenses and the executive branch of the government, migration of traditional domination of narrow institutional interest over the national ones to the digital economy, importing legislation to regulate the online relationship of the countries, producing digital goods and services. So based on that, our team developed several recommendations. And this is, we need to conduct audit of the regulation and normative regulatory acts, establishment of independent communication regulator, reducing taxes on the ICT industry, reform of the ICT training system, and active participation of Tajikistan in regional and international projects, as well as active business involvement for the development of the digitalized economy by public-private partnership. So this is the recommendation for the digital dividends chapter that was part of our analysis. So if you have any questions, please, we could answer a couple of questions, and then we can proceed with the next part of our presentation. Please.
I can see that there are a couple of questions, but those are relevant to overall matters regarding the internet connectivity. Mohammadi, maybe we will take the questions at the end. I am monitoring regularly on the QA section, and then as soon as there are questions, then I will forward it to you. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I will be happy to help.
Thank
if
you.
you will
Thank
help
you,
me with the questions.
Thank you,
Next, I would like to proceed with the next chapter of my presentation. This is the digitalization, and we will provide this information on the level of the digital exceptions and the digitalization status of business, population, and government. So I will start also from the global indexes. According to the World Bank Digital Acceptance, according to the World Bank Digital Adoption Index 2016, Tajikistan ranks on the second lowest performer in Central Asia. So we are on the 141st place out of 183 countries, and score is 0.32, possible scoring from 0 to 1. So I would like to emphasize that data analysis was using only official sources of information. That's why we provided the data from 2016. Maybe during the recent years, the indicators were changed, but we decided to work only based on official statistics and official data. In terms of the progress of the e-government. According to the UN e-government development index for 2020, Tajikistan is ahead only of our neighboring country Turkmenistan and behind other countries of Central Asia as well as the world leader Denmark. Tajikistan is considered an average OSI country for the provision of online government services. And Tajikistan still lags behind Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan in providing government online services, as you might see here on the graph. In terms of the progress on e-commerce, according to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNISTAD B2C e-commerce index for 2019, Tajikistan takes position on 129th place out of 152 countries on the e-commerce development B2C with the scoring of 25.7 with the 100 maximum possible. In terms of progress of e-participation of the citizens, Tajikistan, according to the same UN e-government development index for 2020, Tajikistan ranks 146 out of 193 countries with the scoring in average 0.35 out of total scoring from 0 to 1. And as of today, the number of online services increasing by the different online services to the citizens, like internet banking, like mobile wallets and visa application as well. And we have several efforts to create by the government to create database for further development of e-government. So our state services for the business companies and for the for entrepreneurs in online format is very limited. For example, the registration of the business, permissive papers, and etc. At the same time, there is no single mechanisms for monitoring. There is certain requirements for the feedback for the websites of the public authorities, which are technically implemented, but how they process data and what are the response procedures, they are not it's not transparent and it's hard to monitor. For the identification, authentication, users, according to the law on digital signature, used to ensure security in the provision of electronic services. Even though in business sector, they do using login and the password for identification, authentication of users. In terms of the national register and databases like register of the population, enterprises, properties, transportation vehicles, land properties, and etc. They existing in the paper as well as in the digital format depends on the request by authority. The information could be provided either in the digital form or in the hard copy, and citizens can get the information partially on the website or based on the request in the limited form, just this information, just the personal information. And if we will do this SWOT analysis of digitalization, the digitalization of the government reminds us computerization of schools, which we experienced several years, which strengthening the domination of different IT departments over the growing technical capacity of the institutions. But at the same time, there is some strengths like transformation to the digital economy. It's the development of e-government, which stimulates by accessibility of public services, increasing the capacity of digital citizenship development in tangible goods and service industries, and without additional budget. So the process of digital transformation stimulate growth and coverage of the digital services. And they also aiming on the three above mentioned stimulations. And it's not achievable unless we will introduce radical reform of all business processes. So accessibility of the commercial services indicates growing of human capacity of local specialists. Accordingly, this capacity will give us positive effect on digitalization of interaction between citizens and government through outsourcing of the project for e-government to the business sector, or through attracting highly qualified specialists for direct implementation of such initiatives and projects. So accessibility of the public services also depending on technological skills of the citizens. Because they are building capacity nowadays by using commercial services, which is also indicates about the access to it. Of course, there is a need to create additional physical infrastructure for access to the services, which substantially reduce potential financial costs and growth of potential cost. Growth of this capacity using available public services, citizens by using them, of course, building their digital capacities, they participating actively in the monitoring of quality of provided services through the education and by building maybe in the future new services. So citizens with the digital literacy, they are reliable partners in the development of the e-governance and development of the services, developing tangible goods and service industry available everywhere, and it's provide growth of the consumer from the regular consumer to the consumer of high technology digital products. At the same time, this process creating the critical mass of users, producers of intangible goods, which has a valuable impact into development of the digital services. Some of the services opportunities directly connected to digitalization of the governance. You might see here in the list the stimulation of the growth of e-commerce, reform of the state governance, public administration without the quality of study, and reform of the traditional system of the governance. For example, e-governance, they will digitalize all the documents, digitalize all the relationship and interaction between government and citizens. So digital by design, so-called. And also intangible goods available for the citizens. Considering all the above mentioned processes, we prepared several recommendations for this part, and we recommend revise the Tajikistan ADC electronic documents laws to encourage the development of the electronic documents management and the use of various ADC technologies. Maybe all of you know that today our new law on digital signature stipulates only one type of signatures. It's digital electronic signature. And the re-engineering of the business processes in the digitalization of public services, because strengthening the capacity and authority of the e-government focal point. We are here talking about the building the authority as well, which will allow coordinator to implement all the project. Development of the electronic open data resources and their accessibility. This is the key recommendations that were provided. If you have any additional recommendation, we will be very happy to review them and include them. And so we decided what to postpone questions till the end, or we will proceed with the question and answers now. If you don't have any questions, we can proceed to the next chapter. If not, we can allocate a couple minutes for Q&A session.
There are a lot of questions, for example, but I would suggest you complete your presentation, and then I can put the questions forward.
Хорошо. То есть во всех разделах мы не
So
останавливаем.
we're not stopping basically for the Q&A session after each chapter. Am I correct? We're just gonna put them at the end.
That's correct. That's correct.
Хорошо, спасибо огромное.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So then, in terms of the digital infrastructure and the platform, I can say a lot, really. For example, the digital dividends, the impact of ICT on society, and the development of the nation. We reviewed the global indexes, and according to the Portals Institute Network Readiness Index, Tajikistan ranks on 109th out of 134 countries studied in terms of the impact of ICT on nations' development and competitiveness, with the scoring of 34.14 at the scale from 0 to 100. And since we don't have a data for Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan, Tajikistan lags behind other Central Asian countries. In terms of the impact of the digital technology on the business models, according to the global report by Cornell University, INSEAD, and the World Intellectual Property Organization on digital innovation for 2020, Tajikistan ranks on 109th place out of 131 countries studied in terms of the impact of the digital technologies on organizational models, with the scoring of 22.23. And Tajikistan ranks 133rd in the infrastructure subcomponent and on 128th in the business complexity subcomponent. In terms of the legislation base, regulatory framework, global perspective on ICT regulation, according to the ITU Global ICT Regulatory Outlook for 2020 report, the Tajikistan ranks 187th out of 193 countries in the world. I also want to emphasize that this indicator is closely related to the provision of the official data by the country, and the low ICT regulator scores in Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan lower the average scores in CIS region in general. So in terms of the digital infrastructure and international internet bandwidth, according to the same ITU report for 2018, in Tajikistan, the internet bandwidth is 2.2 kilobytes per internet user. According to Telegeography, Tajikistan's internet bandwidth used in 2020 has almost doubled compared to last year, standing at 123 gigabits per second. But Tajikistan has low international throughput in Central Asia. Among all the countries in Central Asia, as you might see here on the presented graphs. In terms of the prices for the fixed broadband access, according to the same ITU measure Information Society 2018 report, the cost of fixed broadband access in Tajikistan is well above the standard adopted by the Broadband Commission, which is 2% of the average GNI per capita per month. And Tajikistan has the second highest price as the percentage of GNI per capita in Central Asia. For example, if the customer signed a contract with this service, Tajikistan has the second highest indicator as GNI per capita in Central Asia, as I said. So if we will evaluate country according to those criteria in Central Asia, only Kazakhstan meets the accepted affordability criteria. So the average download speed and average cost of broadband access, according to the Global Cable Report for 2020, Tajikistan ranks 25th place, 215th place out of 221 countries, with the average download speed of 1.01 megabits per second, and 33rd out of 211 countries in average broadband access, costing US 19.76 per month. In Central Asia, Tajikistan is ahead of Turkmenistan, but behind other countries, as you might see here on the graph. Regarding the prices for mobile broadband access, this is also the data of the report. The price of mobile broadband access phone-based with the minimum data capacity of 500 megabytes per month in Tajikistan is the highest in the Central Asia at 2.96% of the average GNI per capita per month. And price of mobile broadband access computer-based with the minimum data capacity of 1 gigabyte per month in Tajikistan is more expensive than accepted threshold of 2% and is 4.96% out of the average GNI per capita per month. On these indicators regarding the cloud technologies in the public sector, we have the infrastructure for the virtual services, servers for GUPA, so-called. Basically, it's for the public institutions. In terms of the digital platforms, what digital platforms are being used by businesses and the entrepreneurs, we need to emphasize that we plan to start the portal for the public services. And for now, citizens already using portal for public services, for the taxation office, and for the custom services as well. So our analysis showed that technologies are not used, and at the same time in the business sector, they do using iOS, Internet of Things, and 3D technologies. So some of the indicators this indicator showing with the high related to the high price of the internet services, and the other factor is that affecting is instability of the networks, particular in the villages. So digital infrastructure and platform of SWOT analysis are very critical objects that require strategic multilateral approach for the provision of their safety. And they are providing accessibility of such advantages like a coverage of the public services on 3L principle, which I mentioned before already with any services. And despite the different data, any citizen can have an access to from any device. A very important factor on success in this context is the strict following of many platforms like platform of independence and interoperability of the systems that used for provision of the services. The stimulation of growth, including digital technologies in the state governance could serve as a very good mechanisms for the outsourcing, for the involvement of all counterparts. By this, they're strengthening the similar rules on the market, and it's also affect the general benefits. So this is this organic approach can stimulate the competitiveness growth for SMEs and can facilitate multi-use of communicational structures, which also will have a tremendous impact on achievement of strategical goals, digital transformation of the country into the communication transit of the regions. At the same time, we do have certain constraints or weaknesses on this matter. For example, that could constrain above mentioned advantages and goals. Such weaknesses are created by gap between the state policy on sustainable development and measures, practical measures that are implemented that focusing on protection of interests of certain dominating agencies. Basically, those measures are strengthening the position of certain public unitary institutions by creating the conflict of interest in the different sectors of the market, the regulator of which is the same authority which coordinating the activity. And the complicated system for the permission papers and for the ICT licenses, for scaling up of the infrastructure, which are a weak scalability of infrastructure and focus on meetings, the same, basically the same what I mentioned before. And this constraints is not only creating a barrier for the digital dividends use, but also strengthening the existing risks to the information security of the country defined by the concept of Republic of Tajikistan. Some of them were provided on the bottom here, later on the slides. The growth of number, rapid growth of SUI providing standard infrastructure services at both national and transnational level, vulnerability of domestic critical communication infrastructure due to the single communication center, the technological dependence of the domestic ICT infrastructure on the single telecom equipment manufacturer, Huawei. So by considering all of these factors, we provided several recommendations for this block. It's development of the market, international communications market, and increasing competitions, creation of a single public joint stock company or holding for the development of e-government with the private sector involvement. Basically based on special sector centers, creating some kind of consortium of holding, creation of IT parks, including extraterritorial or virtual parks to attract international software companies and increase investment attractiveness. In this case, it's absolutely necessary to create favorable conditions for the entrepreneurs of other countries and IT companies from other countries without coming to the country could register in the country and play a role of the residents on behalf of our country. Simplification of the ICT licensing system and creation of infrastructure providers, multi-purpose use of existing infrastructures of Barki Tajik, Pamir Energy, Suirohi Ohani Tajik to improve IT infrastructure. So next chapter or part of my presentation related to the cybersecurity, which is also require our attention.
I would request
for example,
to,
according to the ITU Global Cybersecurity Report of 2018, Tajikistan has made progress in cybersecurity in recent years, but is still a very early stage and ranks 107th out of 193 countries. Also in Central Asia, if you might see here on the graph in the percentage, Tajikistan is significantly behind Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. In order to provide cybersecurity, there were certain measures in place to protect critical national infrastructure, like software and hardware. And as of today, the responsible authority is the main administration under the government of the Republic of Tajikistan, and the special measures the step taken to prevent cyber attacks and respond promptly to cyber incidents already developed on the governmental level. In terms of the quick response group to the cyber incidents, we don't have them. From the other side, we adopted many important documents that providing measures for the protection of security. We can say that Tajikistan information security concept was adopted, availability of the capacity of private operators to ensure cybersecurity of their networks. This capacity could be used to provide cybersecurity of the critical infrastructure on the national level. We also have high need to improve multilateral partnership or public-private partnership for cybersecurity at the national level. And quick response group for the cyber incidents is not existent in Tajikistan. It's related to the public and independent areas. So as a result, the lack of the national strategy for cyber resilience and absence of domestic independence, weak stakeholder coordination, the monitoring and evaluation of international cybersecurity indexes. Based on that, we recommend establishment of the national and sectorial CERTs in the national banking, financial sector, development of the national strategy to secure critical infrastructure, involving all stakeholders to ensure a cyber sustainable space, and using PPP to provide security on all different levels. So this is our key recommendations based on cybersecurity in our analysis. Next part of my presentation is enabling environment. This is the pretty much last component of our analysis. Then we will have the potential economic benefits. So in terms of enabling environment, according to the World Bank Doing Business 2020 report, Tajikistan has improved its position in this indicator and now ranking 106 from 126 in 2018. But despite that, Tajikistan still lags behind all Central Asian countries. But we need to emphasize that there is no data on Turkmenistan. According to the same report, business and innovation environment, easy to start a business, Tajikistan is substantially improved on starting, how easy it's markedly, and ranks 36 out of 190 countries in this indicator with a scoring of 93.2 scores. For example, registration of the commercial organization in Tajikistan on average takes about 7 days, which is faster than the average for the Europe and Central Asia regions, which is 11.9 days, almost 12 days. It's possible to do. In terms of the development of digital skills among society, digital skills and culture, according to the Global Competitiveness Index 2019 of WEF, Tajikistan ranks 57th out of 141 countries for its population digital skills development. Since we don't have a data on Turkmenistan, Tajikistan is ahead of Kyrgyzstan in Central Asia, but behind the Kyrgyzstan, but no data for Turkmenistan and Uzbekistan. Involvement of stakeholders in the development implementation of the digital economy strategies. Due to the government involve all stakeholders in developing and implementing strategies programs for the digital economy. And we are involved, we are members of many working groups on development of or drafting normative legal acts. And in December 2010, there was a concept of the digital economy adopted in Tajikistan, which was drafted and presented by the multi-sectorial working group, where we have representative from different sectors, and it's actually, we are proud of the work of this group. There is also and the responsible body for the digital economy is the Ministry of Economy, under which they established the working group on implementation of this concept. And as of now, in Tajikistan, we do have legislation promoting digital businesses development in the country. As you might see here, they are listed here in our report. For example, National Digital Identity Law, which is introduced in amendments of 2015. Law of Republic of Tajikistan on data protection, law on electronic transaction, electronic signature. Now still we have a draft of law on e-commerce, consumer protection in online sales, intellectual property rights law, cybersecurity, fintech, law on fintech and financial systems. Those will be the laws and normative acts that will facilitate development of the business in the country. And that was actually supported by our respondents. In terms of SWOT analysis and enabling environment, so as a strong point, so strengths for successful transformation, we can say that the concept of the digital economy in the Republic of Tajikistan, this document formalizes paradigm of the digital economy in the country, which country that doesn't have direct connection to the regional trade centers. And it's identify very important principles for coordination of all the efforts to create the analog limitations to the digital benefits for our local economy. Legislative environment for the application of the digital ICT, national frameworks that including priority of international norms, recognized and guarantee fair rules and equal opportunity for all actors of the competitive market economy, which is possible without independent regulators of the key sectors. And one of the sector is ICT. Political will to strengthen the transit potential of the domestic ICT markets. One of the 4 strategic goals, if you remember in the beginning, I was emphasizing it, strategic goal of the countries is one of the goals of sustainable development of Tajikistan till 2030 is strengthening the economic status of the country as a communicational transit of the Central Asian region. So one of the key components, it's quite this quite ambitious goal is ICT. And I apologize. Could you please finish your presentation within 3 minutes because we are a bit behind the time. Thank you very much. Thank you. 3 minutes, I will finish. So political will supported by the practical steps, which is creating new opportunity for the expansion of ICT initiatives, for example, initiation and readiness to participate in regional infrastructure projects like CASA 1000, Digital CASA, and the growing need for the digital ICT application and training of interdisciplinary staff everywhere, nationwide. But at the same time, our local experience of the implementation public initiative and ICT-oriented or fundamental for the needs of different spheres, showing the dominating narrowed interest of some national institution in practice. So the next are the weaknesses. They are supporting the fairness, weak implementation of adopted programs within the framework of achieving the goals of the national strategies and visions, and unfavorable tax environment for ICT industries. So in terms of threats, growing conflicts of interest between the regulators and the different sectors discriminating against private licenses in favor of state-owned enterprises. The growing gap between apps and abusive enforcement practices, and unfavorable tax environment for businesses in general. So based on that, I have several recommendations. I will finish on this chapter. This will be the key points. And then next part, we can share just via emails. So we'll be sharing the whole information with you. So recommendations is to conduct audit of the regulations and normative legal acts in the digital economy, improve the investment climate for the development of digital economy, establishment of coordinator with the sufficient authority and capacity, and of course engaging international consultants for the development of the digital economy. So I guess I will stop here because I have several remaining slides. This is closely related to the potential economic benefits that we can discuss later on. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for your attention. And as I might see here, the number of the participants are increasing. And also in Q&A, you will be able to find a lot of questions regarding your presentation. So please, you could check, you could answer in the chat. You could answer in the chat Q&A session. Q&A, you might press on Q&A link on the blog, and there are a lot of questions regarding to your presentations. No, you can just text. You can just text them. No. Excuse me. Yes, you can just text them. Yes, via chat box.
Yeah.
You can just type your answers. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohammadi Abdullayo, for an interesting and comprehensive research details. As my colleague just mentioned, that there are a lot of questions about your presentation in the Q&A section. I would request you to just go through, and then I will give you a floor again to respond on the questions when you read all the questions. Then I will give you a floor to respond the questions, because there are a lot of questions, and I would just want you to read once, and then I will give you a floor to respond the questions. So our next speaker is Aziz John Azimi, founder of Tajrab.ai, the first artificial intelligence lab in Central Asia. Aziz John.
Thank you very much, Shaukat. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. I will share my screen for a presentation, and we can get started. Oops. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Great. Уважаемые коллеги, добрый день. Здравствуйте.
Dear colleagues, good afternoon. I will present my slides in Russian, some of the slides in English. Oh, sorry, I will switch to English.
Distinguished colleagues in the audience about artificial intelligence and how we have a vision for utilizing AI as a foundation for leapfrog development in Tajikistan. So Dr. Alters, when he was speaking earlier on this panel, mentioned the term leapfrog digital development. And I want to unpack that a little bit, right? So what do we mean by leapfrog development? Traditionally in economic development—
Excuse me, I can barely hear.
Catch-up is when developing
countries. Aziz John, sorry, if you can just select the interpretation English, then our translators will.
No, I think we can. It's okay. We can hear. I can hear him, but his voice is echoing. Maybe he would use the headphones. I apologize for interruption.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay, I'll bring this over closer to myself then. Can you guys hear me fine? Is that good?
Thank you very much. It's better. Thank you.
We can get through this together. Sure, we can get through this together. I promise you I'll be shorter. Okay, going back to my screen then, and I believe someone is not muted. It'll be great if people can, mute. But going to our, topic again, so catch-up versus leapfrog. Catch-up is when you have developing countries simulating the development trajectory of the developed countries. So what do we mean? For example, in the 60s and 70s, you had development of manufacturing in the Asian tigers, South Korea, Taiwan, other countries. And by simply replicating the development trends of, at the time, developed countries, they were able to attain high growth rates. But today, there is an alternative theory that is being widely adopted across the world, and it's the leapfrog theory. And the leapfrog theory says that instead of focusing and simply replicating on the conventional sectors, such as manufacturing, agriculture, developing countries should instead focus on the most developed sectors of technology. And by adopting the most advanced technology, they can actually leapfrog ahead in development and go straight to the level of developed countries. What is the case in point of that? The case in point is Kenya. Kenya is an interesting case, and I believe that experts from the World Bank have done numerous studies showcasing how tremendous the growth in Kenya has been. Kenya is a country where 83% of the population is actually connected to financial services. And that's a remarkable percentage. That's literally on the level of developed countries. How has Kenya attained that? Not by replicating the Western banking model, but instead by adopting mobile technology. Companies like M-Pesa, by bringing financial services to mobile technology, connection of it, have enabled even people in rural areas of Kenya to have access to financial services. And this is a case where a country like Kenya, by adopting the latest trends in technology, in this case, digital payments, was able to leapfrog development as opposed to focusing on conventional manufacturing or agriculture, right? And over the last 10 years, Kenya's GDP has doubled. And obviously correlation isn't causation, right? But digital sector is one of the fastest growing sectors in Kenya. So this goes to show how leapfrog is actually, has many cases in point. Now, how do we see that in Tajikistan, right? And I'm going to switch to the work that our organization does in a second. Overall, about artificial intelligence, we should note that it's a pretty big sphere, right? You can see that there's many sub-branches: machine learning, natural language processing, expert systems. Most of AI today is actually in this space, in machine learning, which is machines that are able to think and act like humans after analyzing data. And that's the basics of AI and machine learning, which is you have some sort of data, you analyze the data, you build models, and those models are able to automate certain human tasks. That's it. But if we look at the impact of AI, PwC recently did a study that showed that by 2030, AI will add $15.7 trillion to the global GDP. That makes artificial intelligence the single largest commercial opportunity globally today. And if you look at countries that can win a share of that price, China stands out. China is anticipated to have 26% in additional GDP just from deployment of artificial intelligence. And today, when we look at deployment, real world cases of AI, we see it everywhere. We see it in Siri, right? The assistant that Apple has.
So how long time do you need to?
Self-driving cars, Waymo is an example. Netflix. I believe someone is not muted. Can I ask again?
Someone forgot to turn off their mic.
No worries. You can still hear me, right?
I think everybody is muted now, Aziz.
Hello? Okay, great, thank you. And Waymo is another example that Google is using computer vision, which is another part of AI, to introduce self-driving cars. Another simple case is Netflix. By using machine learning, right, Netflix is able to personalize content recommendation. Another case is TikTok. TikTok is an incredible case of how personalized recommendations can actually lead to incredible user growth. So AI is everywhere, it's the present. But at the same time, what I should note is that there's also a lot of hype around artificial intelligence. Left and right companies are saying they're deploying AI, but at its core, AI is dependent on data. And there's this great principle that I really adore called garbage in, garbage out. If you have garbage data, the model you build will give you garbage output. So it's really important to focus on the data quality in order to have good sort of deployment of artificial intelligence. Now about factors of growth. Why has AI come to the forefront of development today and not 50 years ago? There are two factors that explain that. First, it's the volume of data. So if you can see, just how much data is generated globally, in 2020, we had about over 40 zettabytes of data, and 1 zettabyte is basically a billion terabytes. Look at this explosive growth rate, right? We're having an increasing rate of data generation from mobile phones, from laptops, from sensors. And this level of adoption is increasing year by year. So the more data you have, the more accurate AI systems you're able to develop. The second factor is computer processing power, right? Computing power. Now we have GPUs, graphic processing units, that are able to process data at a significantly faster rate than ever before in human history. So these two factors combined, the volume of data and the computing power, make AI something that is able to be deployed today, not just in the future, but today in the world. Now, Tajikistan AI, what do we do? So this is our lab in Khujand, a city in Tajikistan. We are the first AI lab in Central Asia. We launched our lab in November 2019. Our team is based in Tajikistan, and we have mentors from Stanford. I was at the time doing my second year MBA at Stanford when we just launched, Tajikistan AI. So for me, it was very special that a country like Tajikistan, that is nominally seen as, a low-income country just developing, was able to already leapfrog in AI and open the first AI lab in Central Asia. We won a global grant from the Islamic Development Bank. We were one of 32 winners from over 4,300 participants to launch our lab. And we also became a finalist of Google's AI Impact Challenge last year. And Tajikistan AI believes in, sort of two dimensions of work. We educate people and we build products. People and products form the foundation for our work because we believe that if we indeed want to leapfrog in AI as a country, as a nation, we have to have talented people who are making awesome products. That's the simple thesis we believe in. And if you look at our deployment, the first product we built was in financial services, in fintech. Why? We adopted a methodology called design thinking, which basically says that before building a product, even if you're a genius, you've got to go and talk to regular people. Talk to them, interview them, find user needs, what they actually need in their lives, and then tailor your solution in order to activate those user needs. So we started talking to consumers in Dushanbe, in Khujand, across Tajikistan, and then we started talking to credit experts because we knew that banks have a lot of data. So we figured, if we're going to deploy AI, it should be in financial services. And our interviews showcased the following. We found that if you are an average Tajik citizen who goes to a regular Tajik bank to get a micro loan, let's say loans up to $1,000, you spend around 1 to 3 days to get back a response. Not the loan, but to get back a response. Why? Because of the following factors. First, documentation. Vast majority of banks in Tajikistan, even for a micro loan, they demand salary statements, they demand documentation related to collateral, related to your relatives, etc. There's lots of documentation. Second, there's a slowdown in the process. In order to get a microloan of, let's say, $500, you have to get approval from a credit expert and then from a credit committee. And that two-step process has lots of bottlenecks. And when we saw these problems, we figured this is the area where AI can be deployed in order to automate decision-making on microloans. And for banks, this is really important, especially because banks are spending 8 resources to service % of their portfolio, right? The 20 really small microloans, a credit expert spends 2 to 3 days analyzing them, which is really inefficient. That credit expert better spend time marketing and selling the product, right? Or servicing bigger clients. Now, when we see solutions, right, what are the solutions to issues of analyzing microloan applicants? There's scoring. Scoring is a traditional methodology. It's been widespread in the developed world. It's also present in Tajik banks. The best example of scoring is FICO, right, in the United States, where there's a credit score that's assigned to consumers. The problem with traditional scoring is that it discriminates against first-time clients. Why? Because credit scores, they generally are based on credit history. And if you don't have a credit history, then you basically are left out of the financial services system, right? And that's a major problem that we see in developed countries as well. Another problem is that credit scoring systems, they usually have linear relationships. So they believe that the consumer data is linearly related to each other. So for example, income, age, other factors, they have linear relationship. We have seen numerous research studies that prove that variables about consumers are non-linear. So actually, a person can have a completely different income level and a completely different age, and the way those two factors are connected is non-linear. They can be switching at different rates for different customers. So we see that traditional scoring methodologies that are present in Tajik banks, they are outdated. And this is true for other countries as well in the region. So what do? We looked at research and we saw that, for example, if you look at actual data of consumers, let's say there's variable X and there's output Y. Y is whether the person will give the loan back or not. X can be any factor like income. The relationship is non-linear, right? But linear models, linear scoring models that are adopted by most banks across the world, they assume a linear relationship, right? Either it's a good credit or a bad credit. Here's the power of machine learning, right? Machine learning can actually go deeper and analyze and come to uncovering those non-linear relationships. So we decided to apply machine learning to this issue, and we created a simple credit scoring software based on artificial intelligence. This is the interface of our program. So a credit expert, they would ask for 10 pieces of data from a consumer, right? Things like age, amount of credit, the purpose of credit, what region they're from, how many times they've gotten the credit in the bank, etc. And these 10 categories of data can lead to a single response. Now, to get to this response, our software analyzes data of hundreds of thousands of consumers who have previously gotten loans at Tajik banks across the country. And it took us 4 months to develop this product, which was a fairly quick turnaround, only 3 people working part-time. So this shows to you the power of machine learning, that if you have the right data, and most importantly, the right process, you can launch products at a fairly quick pace. How do we get here? Well, we've deployed 2 principles: efficiency and equity. Yes, we're a commercial startup. We're commercializing our products, and that is helping banks in the following ways. First, by deploying machine learning and using this product, banks are able to reduce their operational costs. They're no longer spending 80% of resources on 20% of loans. They can use a credit scoring software to automatically give decisions on applications for microloans and move on to servicing higher, let's say, threshold consumers. Second, the flow of applications. By making the process of issuing microloans faster, banks are able to service more customers, and this brings them additional revenue. And third is accuracy. By utilizing machine learning, banks are able to more accurately predict creditworthiness than traditional scoring models. But the second mission of our company is social mission, right? What's the social effect? The social effect is that if we're able to deploy machine learning at a systemic level in Tajik banks, we see 2 things happening. First, we're increasing access to financial services because clients without credit history, mostly the youth, they're now able to access credit because our credit scoring system is able to analyze first-time clients as well. And second, it makes the process much faster. So no longer do consumers in Tajikistan have to wait 2 to 3 days to get a response on a loan. They can get them fairly quickly. Now, how do we build our product? We first got a database of clients on microloans. We analyzed that database with different machine learning models. We built an algorithm that combines, different models into a single software, and we started piloting that software with our banking partners. I'll tell about that in a second. And now we're deploying our product in real banks with real customers. And it's the beauty of the machine learning that we're able to do this at a fairly quick speed. Who are our partners? Right now, we have 5 partners in Tajikistan. These banks form cumulatively the largest share in microloans in the country. And we signed NDAs with them to access their data and to build a credit scoring software. Our database includes data on 532,000 clients over a 5-year period, 2015 till 2020, and we've built 10 common variables that are available for each of these customers. And our database is anonymous, so we guarantee user privacy by ensuring that we do not have access to their personal identity and data. Now, when we tested our model, what did we see? There are 2 indicators that you can use to evaluate credit scoring models. One is accuracy, right, touchless. Another is AUC, area under the curve. For accuracy, our bank partners, their accuracy was around 77 to 86%. Our accuracy for a logistic regression model, which is a basic linear model, was around 90.8%. Right? So this shows to you that the added value from machine learning is actually quite substantial, even if it's a linear model like log-rank. Now, AUC is more important. AUC is the main metric used to evaluate credit scoring models. And conventional wisdom says that if your machine learning model for credit scoring has AUC of 0.7 and above, then the model is ready for deployment. It's basically a model that's good enough to be used by banks. Our partner, one of them actually had an AUC for their log-rank model. It was around 0.67, which is below the threshold. All of our models that we've built using machine learning, such as XGB classifier, random forest, ensemble, all of them consistently show above 0.7 AUC, even reaching 0.75, which is pretty phenomenal, right, given the context of Tajikistan. And our accuracy is stable above 90%. So this shows to you that machine learning is significantly outperforming banks in their capacity for credit scoring of microloans. Now, about deployment, Spitamen Bank became the first bank in Tajikistan's history to deploy machine learning because of our product. On April 1st, and this was not a joke for April Fools, right? On April 1st, we launched our credit scoring software in 2 branches of Spitamen Bank in Dushanbe. Spitamen Bank has committed 1 million somoni to give out loans with our credit scoring model. And now, what is the result? We see that it takes 15 minutes for consumers in Dushanbe, in the 2 branches of Spitamen Bank, to get a response on their microloan application. They come to a bank, they talk to a credit expert, the credit expert enters their data on our credit scoring software. Our software uses machine learning to approve or reject the model, and the response is given in total. The whole process takes about 15 minutes. Obviously, it takes longer to actually get the money because there's processes around opening an account, etc. But those are beyond our work. Our work was always automating the decision on the loan, and we've done that already with Spitamen Bank. Now, basically, when we see on next steps, 4 more banks will be deploying our credit scoring software. And by the end of the summer, we'll have 5 banks, major banks in microloan segment, using machine learning in giving responses on microloan applications. And this is something unprecedented. Because even in developed countries, yes, you have digital banks, you have banks that use machine learning, but I don't know a case of a country where machine learning is used by major players, by the biggest banks in microloan segment. So this would be a leapfrog case where hopefully, if we're successful and we show good results, Tajikistan will be the first case, I believe, globally where machine learning is used on a systemic level to make decisions on microloan applications. What's the next horizon for us? Next horizon is alternative data, right? We want to collect non-traditional data in order to further improve access of credit for consumers. What kind of data? It can be online payments, it can be behavioral data, it can be remittances, right? And all of these data points, they increase the accuracy of our machine learning model. Right now, we're working with 1 bank in order to pilot collection of alternative data, including psychometric data through questionnaires and tests. And the more data we collect that's alternative, I believe the better accuracy we'll achieve with our machine learning model. And eventually, banks will be having greater profitability and consumers will be having greater access at a greater speed to financial services. Now, what we saw was that this was about products, talking about people, right? How do we nurture people? Banks that are partnering with us said, Aziz John, great product, historic things, amazing. But who will actually help us deploy AI and machine learning in other spheres of banking, right? In marketing, in personalizing content, etc. So we decided to build an AI academy, which already now is working. It's based in Dushanbe and Khujand. There are 150 students. There is also an online format. We have an online curriculum for our AI Academy, and we have students from Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan joining our AI Academy. It's the first such academy in the region of Central Asia. And these students, for 4 months, they will be learning fundamentals of statistics, programming in Python, and machine learning. And at the end, top 50 graduates will undergo paid internships in 10 companies in Tajikistan, ranging across telecom, financial services, and consulting industries. It was very important for us to secure employment at first and then start enrolling students, because now we're proving that there's demand for machine learning jobs in Tajikistan. And in the future, we want to create a they will remain in Tajikistan and they will work for global companies, because the demand for machine learning outsourcing is incredibly high in the global economy today. And a success story, right, of our students. These two students are both 16 years old. This is Samandar and this is Nazir John. They're both graduates of our AI Academy in Fujian. They recently built a face recognition algorithm using basic machine learning. This is not something advanced, right? They use the tools of deep learning to construct this based on open libraries, and they're commercializing their product. They're selling it to one of the local banks. And this is an incredible success story where we see that students who are 16 years old, right? They're not only getting jobs. For example, Samandar is now an intern. He's getting a salary at a local bank in Fujian, but they're also building products that they're able to commercialize. So basically a startup, right? Our worry is that soon, hopefully, Tajikistan will have graduates launching startups that will compete with us. So that's a worry that is a great sort of happiness for us as well. And what are our long-term goals? I want to give a special gratitude to Mr. Sherli Kabir, the Minister of Industry and New Technologies, who visited our office just a few weeks ago. Mr. Kabir has provided tremendous support to us, and for me personally, returning from Stanford and just finishing my thesis at Harvard, it's been incredibly encouraging that the minister has dedicated not only time but also support to making our vision of Tajikistan as an AI hub of Central Asia, converting it to reality. And the minister has supported our goal of attaining leapfrog development in Tajikistan by deploying AI at an industrial scale. And our goal is that for our credit scoring software, we want to export to other countries in Asia. We see that this is an incredibly big market opportunity, and there's very few products that match our product using machine learning. So by the end of 2021, we want to start exporting our machine learning-based credit scoring system to other countries in Asia. And I believe there will be the first case where we will hopefully raise venture capital funding from VC funds and showcase that a startup in Tajikistan with 3 part-time employees, but a big ambition, can actually attain global level development at its speed. And the last thing I want to mention is a national AI strategy. Minister Kabir has approved creating a national AI strategy for Tajikistan that will complement documents that were already mentioned in this panel. So we have a digital economy concept, but this strategy document is actually, I would say, revolutionary. Why? Because right now there are 50 countries globally that have AI strategies. The average GDP per capita of a country that has an AI strategy is over $30,000, which means that this is an exclusively developed country club, right? You're a developed country, you have good resources, you have good infrastructure, you have data centers, you have computing power, you're building an AI strategy. But if you look at low-income countries, not a single country globally that has a GDP per capita of less than $1,000 has an AI strategy. So now that we're beginning work on our strategy, once Tajikistan hopefully adopts its AI strategy, Tajikistan will become the first low-income country globally and the first country overall in Central Asia to have a national AI strategy. And we will start implementation of our vision. Just last week, Minister Kabir and I met with heads of universities, technical universities, and now we're going to including AI as a major in universities across Tajikistan. One university in Fujian has already included an AI major. They have a master's program. They're launching a bachelor's program, and scaling that program across different universities, I believe, will create a greater talent pool. And in regards to just some concluding remarks, data center as well, right? Minister Kabir's vision is to launch a data center very shortly in Tajikistan. That will provide an incentive for companies like ours to have access to greater data and use that to improve our machine learning models. So to summarize, Tajik AI, again, small company, but big ambitions. And a forum like this enables us to bring our message to a greater audience. And I hope that, you will share us in the dream of Tajikistan becoming an AI nation. And most importantly, you will support us in the implementation of this vision. Thank you all very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Aziz John Azimi, for an inspiring presentation. You are a role model for the youth of Tajikistan, so keep shining and inspiring. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Anatoly Motkin founder and president of StrategEast Center for a New Economy, who will talk about how to create an IT ecosystem in Tajikistan.
Большое спасибо, Шаукат. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Shaukat. Thank you very much, the representative office of the European Union in Tajikistan and the World Bank for the event. And it is a great honor for us to participate in this event. Indeed, we believe that Tajikistan has a great potential, great capacity in the development of the IT sector. And traditionally, Tajikistan has been the center of culture and science in this region. I'd like to thank Mr. Ibadulloyev for a very interesting and detailed presentation and the analysis of the current situation with certain recommendations about what's happening in Tajikistan. In reality, the presentation that I would like to show you is called How to Create a Modern IT Infrastructure in Tajikistan. But I think it will be more about the following. What can StrategEast, as the center of a new economy that is involved in the development of the economy of knowledge in the Eurasian region, would be ready and willing to do in Tajikistan? The StrategEast Global Minds Initiative program is a program that consists of several stages, and it allows, even in the countries where the IT industry is still in the embryo stage, to turn it into a dynamically developing and organically developing sector. StrategEast is ready to start implementing its Global Minds initiative in Tajikistan, and it's aimed at the development of a sector of economic technologies. It will lead to the firm. Anatoly, I do apologize, but I would like to interrupt you. Do you have a presentation? You cannot see it?
Одну секундочку, я сейчас запущу.
Just a second, please. Let me launch.
Там зеленые. Да, 2 секундочки, да, сейчас я...
Just a couple of seconds and let me share.
Так, видно? Да, видно. Спасибо. И переключается слайд.
Yes, we can. Right, thank you. So apologies for the technical hiccup. So the program is aimed at the establishment and the development of the sector of information technologies. And the result of the implementation of the StrategEast program will be the formation of a group of young professionals, entrepreneurs, and the workers of the IT sphere effectively integrated in the global economic and production processes. Tajikistan will turn from a consumer of the IT products to the producer of such products. The Global Minds Initiative program consists of several stages, as I told you. First is, of course, the training. We lean on our cooperation, multi-year cooperation with major IT companies that are international IT and engineering companies. And what have we devised? We don't split the training process away from the creation of jobs. We're asking the companies that train the people to hire people on a remote basis from the countries where they live. And this prevents the brain drain from the countries. Furthermore, people that train in our programs, as soon as they complete their training, receive a job offer from the companies that are training them. We're also involved in the development of the startup industry in these countries in cooperation with several accelerators from the Silicon Valley that help the local guys that have their ideas, that have their startups, to formulate their ideas, to shape them up, how to make sure these ideas are clear and understandable, and how can they attract financing for their ideas. We're also helping, and this is an important component for the establishment of the ecosystem in Tajikistan. So we study the local legislation, and we help make sure that it is in compliance with the best regional experience. This is what we've done in Georgia last year, where we managed, thanks to the fact that we conducted a tax reform, to attract international companies and start our activities in Georgia and hire local guys from there. We're also involved in motivating discussions with the world IT leaders in the countries where we work. And in this case, we're talking about Tajikistan. So these are the founders of the Viber messenger to the guys working in Amazon and other companies. Now, the Strategist Changing Economy, Changing Society report is the report that we have developed about how the IT industry in the post-Soviet countries looks like. This is an important report because its main purpose, although it's a shallow one, is to convince decision makers, financial decision makers, that the IT industry has and deserve a special treatment, and it should be developing separately because in reality, there is future behind it. It is emphasized that Tajikistan has improved its laws and regulations on the way towards a digital transformation. Tajikistan approved the concept of electronic government and created the Council of ICT under the president. At the same time, there's insufficient level of development and too much regulation. This is also something that we discussed in the telecommunications sector. And this prevents dynamic development of the IT industry in the country. Tajikistan has joined the World Bank project Digital CASA. This is important because the World Bank is a partner. It's a knowledge partner that we work with in many countries. And this project opens up a new future for the countries of Central Asia, including the development of infrastructure. As a result of the implementation of the project, the population of Tajikistan, including remote areas, will be provided with broadband internet access. And this is important because IT industry is also about the equality of opportunities. So when a person has large intellectual resources, have the same opportunities, even if they live in the rural areas, they have the same opportunities as people that live in Dushanbe. There will be transit of data from Tajikistan to Europe and Asia. And I know we don't have much time, but I've already shared this presentation, and digital CASA is very important for the development of IT industry in Tajikistan. What does Tajikistan lack for the speedy development of the IT cluster? Advantages include availability of youth with quality fundamental education in precise sciences, a great capacity for IT projects for the domestic market, and that does not only include the banking sector. First of all, for state agencies and state companies, they are the main consumers. And this prospects for the development of the transit digital hub within the framework of the Digital CASA project. Disadvantages, low number of specialists with the experience of working in the most in-demand programming languages, but that's not enough. We don't only need coders, we also need people that know how to communicate with international clients. This is what we have faced and gotten over in Georgia. A lot of talented programmers that didn't have the experience of working with international clients. So it's the question of the chicken or the hen and the egg. So you need specialists that will train local guys. Then insufficient regulation, not a very attractive regulation of the IT sector, and insufficient experience on part of local IT entrepreneurs to work with the Western customers in the promotion of their services on the Western markets. How can the StrategEast Global Minds Initiative help Tajikistan for modern IT industry? First step, opening a training center. This is what I refer to. In reality, we are ready to agree with several international IT companies that first it will be a pilot, and then they will be able to create several jobs, first of all, in Tajikistan, and then the guys that will pass entrance exams, and the training will be in English, that will have basic knowledge of algorithms. After 8 months of training at the level of team leaders, they will be able to start working in this company without leaving their country while continuing working at their main place of employment or studying in the university. After the studies, they will be able to combine work and studies. Second, engaging international or attracting international companies to the country. As soon as there is a base of specialists, Tajikistan will become attractive for international IT companies. This will be a known company for them. The StrategEast organized a series of activities to engage some companies and attract them to the Tajik market. In Georgia, for instance, this resulted in several companies opening branches. And in the first year, they will create more than 1,000 new jobs in IT. In Georgia, there is only 3.5 million people population, so that's significant. These companies will be orientated towards the export of the most modern IT services, and they will become the foundation of the future IT industry in Tajikistan. We understand that people working these companies have reached a certain level, and in 1 year they can train 5 lower level coders. So that's pyramid-like development. Then access of local companies and startups to the global financial markets. I will not read this. You can take a look at this in your free time, but we have colossal experience in helping local guys, local startups enter international markets in a qualified fashion, start cooperating with the Silicon Valley and get investments. This is very important because this does provide opportunities to the country to develop regardless of who is around the country, who are the neighbors. This is the only commodity that you can sell regardless of the distance and very fast. As a result of the Global Minds Initiative project in Tajikistan, we will generate momentum for the formation of a new export-oriented sector of the economy. Recommendations will be provided to improve legislation in the IT sphere, yet again in cooperation with the state agencies, World Bank, and the EU Representative Office. Tajikistan will significantly satisfy its own IT needs by using local production. I'm confident that right now, a lot of money is spent on purchasing foreign products, and there will be a group of IT entrepreneurs integrated in the global IT ecosystem, and thousands of young graduates will be employed in the fastest growing sector of the global economy, staying in Tajikistan. Thank you for your attention. And once again, I hope that we will continue our cooperation. And thank you again, organizers of this event, for a very interesting event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Natalie Motkin and StrategEast, for your great support in organizing this conference. Our last speaker is Kate Gromova, co-founder of Women in Digital Transformation, digital development consultant at the World Bank, who will talk about digital skills initiatives for Tajikistan, priorities and opportunities.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for the opportunity to talk today. And yeah, just let me quickly share my presentation here. I hope you can see it well.
Yes, yes, we can.
Thank you. I know that we are a little bit over the time now, but so I will try to be very specific on our findings and recommendations, which we did this digital skills analysis within the World Bank team. Basically, I would like to discuss and show the results of this of our work and ideas, share our ideas for their interventions and projects which is we can run together. So this is a special reason why we talk about digital skills today, because for one of the main barriers for digital transformation is the lack of digital skills within the population in the country. The current situation in Tajikistan is kind of on the edge. We see that there are positive but there are also negative trends in the country, and we would like to highlight both of these trends and just think what can be done in a short period of time to overcome these negative trends. What we see now that according to their global innovation index, the overall human capability development are kind of stagnated, if it's not declining, and the decline, especially worsened decline, happened within the last couple of years. And for instance, from 2019, the drop was several scores. In 2019, the rank was, country was on the 87th place out of 129 countries, and now on to 109th place, which is I really would like to highlight and draw the attention to this worsened signal in their overall capacity development, human capacity development. But there are some positive trends, and there are some positive foundations for the future growth and capacity development. For instance, there is a positive growth in the graduates, in the number of graduates in science and engineering schools. the country is actually doing good comparing to some of the neighbor countries. There are also the positive trend in overall country ability to attract talents, and listening for Aziz John, I do understand why is that. Though their country capacity to grow talent within the country is a little bit at the problem now. So there is a requirement for the focus to have strong educational programs to ensure that the capacity are grown within the country. And they see that there is a positive trend in overall work with their women and these gender parity gaps and covering these gender parity gaps, which is quite important. And I will talk about this a little bit later in the presentation. So just to concentrate more on the current bottlenecks and potential intervention. And here I would like to spend a little bit more time talking on the bottlenecks. So we know that there are many digital skills programs and initiatives in the countries, but there's still overall lack of overall digital literacy for the entire population. And as I said, that digital skills is a key driver for digital transformation because it creates the demand side for digital services, digital products, their development of the business. So not having their high level of overall digital literacy in the country won't give them opportunity to grow this, to grow digital transformation, to run digital transformation. They see that the overall schools and university curriculums are not future-proof, not up-to-date, and it's end up in having limited and not enough number of digital specialists, especially with the advanced skills. And here again, if we talk about AI Academy, this is the opportunities for people to grow and their skills into their advanced technologies, but it's not also enough. It's just good to have this type of approach across the country and broaden this kind of initiatives. There is a lack of the demand for digital skills in public sector. And of course, and you probably know this very well, that there divide digital skills gaps between rural and urban population is quite big, and it's actually widening the digital divide in the country. So what is possible to do in this current situation in their short-term perspective? Of course, it's digital infrastructure and connectivity. It's working with their digital, the school curriculums and skill frameworks. It's important to bring this new digital content for the broader awareness in local languages, and to work and train teachers so they have confidence in using and teaching the digital technologies. It's important to run digital inclusive initiatives for women and vulnerable group of people. We cannot have half of their country population out of their digital transformation. It's important to have these focus programs on women. It's quite necessary to have capacity building initiative for public sector, for government officials, because these are people who will be driving, will be leaders of digital transformation on the government side. They do need to understand how to implement digital technologies for the country growth. And it's important to have very sectorial focus digital schools and programs. Cooperation between industry and academia, the partnerships are crucial and necessary. But what is very important now in this current stage in the country is really their leadership. So to have this cooperation among government and academia and private sector to assess the current market demands, to map all available digital skills programs and actors, create digital capacity framework for Tajikistan, and launch education training programs with the development partners. And the examples, what we heard today from Anatoly and Aziz on how it can be done with their partnership with the private sector, is just great examples of the leadership with the specific initiatives on the specific topics. So I think it's just a great great opportunity for the country now just to grow these kind of initiatives. But also just to think broader on the potential, what else can be done, or how we can approach the topics, for instance, with the capacity development for the public officials. It's very important to think now, what are the skills and knowledge which are required for the public officials to run digital transformation, and how and what country need to teach the government officials. It's important to understand how to use open data and how to use data for overall data-driven decision making process. It's very important for them to understand how the legal system should look like and work to support digital transformation. It's quite important to see look for the international case studies and how other countries went through their transformation, especially in the initial stages, work and cooperate with the private sector, but also have digital and data skills and cyber skills for each of their public officials. So just to make sure these people do feel and understand what is needed and what is happening in digital space, so they don't they're not afraid to run this and support their transformation. So as I said, their inclusion, and specifically women inclusion, is an important topic, and why we talk separately on women, about women programs, and this is one of the example World Bank had in Kosovo, this women in online work. So why it's important, just because having focus specifically on women engagement and women in education usually bring better results than the programs are mixed and blended. That's many researchers showed that the performance and efficiency in only women cohorts for technical educations is higher, because it limits their male peer pressure on women. It's also give more flexibility to adjust to overall women requirements from their time perspective, so women can include the family care responsibilities with the education. It's also important to adjust programs and bring them closer to women, because women usually have less opportunity to travel far for the education and for training programs. So these are one of the examples where their specific technical program was delivered on the municipal level for women, just to ensure that they can engage into their technical education. It showed very positive and results, and had many offers and women employed not only in Kosovo but in other European countries. It's one of the examples which can be adjusted and analyzed for Tajikistan needs. Some examples of women participants. And it's also important to have inclusive education for people with disabilities. And this is one of the examples from Vietnam we had. And why Vietnam? Because there more than 90% of working age people with disabilities do not have marketable professional skills. And it's this specific program was an interesting example how the cooperation with the education private sector and the government helped to not only to build these skills, but overcome stigma for their employment and enrich people with their technical knowledge, but also soft skills training. So to make sure that people end up being employable and in the cooperation with their private and the sector with the employers, they managed to provide this support net so that people can get after the trainings and get employed, and had a very positive feedback on after the training. So there are many different examples how these difficult issues with their education for different group of people are tackled in different countries. I think we are now at a good position, countries in a good position to bring this expertise, like Anatol talk about, the experience from other countries, together with their support from private sector and finance from the partner, international partners, to just ensure that the country is up and leapfrog in its digital transformation and support this demand for digital skills, which is huge now. So this will be it from my side, and I will happy to share the presentation and answer separately on the questions.
Thank you very much, Kate Gromo, for an interesting presentation. As you can see, we are receiving so many questions, and so far we have already responded answers and comments for around 40 questions, and there are still a lot of questions coming. So I just want to give a floor to Mohammadi again, if he would like to respond on some of the questions in our chat box. And if you wanted to comment in 3 minutes, please wrap up and then give your answers and your thoughts. Thank you.
Спасибо. Я, в принципе, я тут
Thank you. In principle, I've been answering in this chat box to the questions that I got. If there is anything else, then go ahead.
Excellent. So I can ask you a couple of questions. One of the questions is how you measured the increase in labor productivity in companies where the technology has already been introduced as success stories and a basis for calculating digital GDP.
Как?
How?
Вот здесь.
Oh, right. There it is. Success story. Well, frankly speaking, we've never measured that, but it is an interesting topic. It is an interesting idea that we should give some thought.
Okay, excellent.
Обычно чаще всего это плюс производительность 50.
Well, most frequently, it's like about a 50% productivity increase. Hypothetically, I calculated it once and this is what I got. But yet again, we need to have detailed studies of this. Frankly speaking, I've never done measurements of that kind.
Okay, thank you, Mohammadi. Another question is, what barriers do you think exist in terms of running a paperless business with each other?
Ну, я
Well,
на этот вопрос отвечал.
I already answered this question. The main barrier is regulation. Regulatory norms, besides having an electronic version, besides having a digital database, regulators demand, and the controlling authorities demand paper copies of the same documents. Also, a lack of transparency and, of course, lack of any tax advantages for the companies that would like to be involved in paperless work. And then yet again, tax burden and the lack of staff. That is also an additional factor that has an impact on this.
Okay, thank you very much, Mohammadi, and thank you very much, all the distinguished speakers. It is a very interesting conference, and you can see the importance of digital economy and the interest out there, because the amount of 65 questions for 3 speakers in the amount of 2 hours, it's already shows the interest of how much interest people have. And just to comment a couple of things, because a lot of people are interested about the recording of this session. So just for your information, that in a couple of days, we are going to publish the recording of today's session at the University of Central Asia's YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube channel and then say University of Central Asia, and then you will see our page there. And then a lot of people on social media have asked about the presentations, if they will receive the presentations of our distinguished speakers. So in that part, then I will connect with the speakers, and if they are okay in sharing this with everyone, then we are going to share with everyone. So with those words, I would like to also thank the World Bank, the European Union, StrategEast, and the government of Tajikistan for the great collaboration that we all together have today in bringing this conference. Our next conference is also on a hot topic about cryptocurrency and Bitcoins. And then we have invited some really big names on 4th of May. So stay tuned. And thank you very much, everyone, for your time today, for your active participation and all the comments and questions. Thank you. And thank you all the speakers for excellent presentations and then sharing your thoughts, your research and with everyone. Thank you and have a very nice afternoon.